Good morning, good afternoon. If it's Friday, it's a CEO series. Our guest today is Sean Koppelman, president of the Talent Magnet and co-founder of 420 Connect. Sean's firm is based in New York City, Executive Recruitment. He's a veteran of the recruitment industry for close to 20 years, experiencing connecting exceptional candidates at the most prestigious companies, brands, and agencies in the world. He has appeared on CBS News. He's contributed to 2 best-selling books, Martin Yates' Knock 'Em Dead, and Secrets, Strategies for Success in an Uncertain World. He designed the 5 A's of personal branding program, which was adopted by a local college to provide students with a competitive edge when searching for internships and jobs. And with that, I want to welcome you officially, Sean, to the broadcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was quite an introduction. That's a lot to live up to. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad to have you here because you're doing some interesting things in the U.S., of which we talked about earlier. We'll talk about a little later. But give us your thoughts on the marketplace today, post-COVID. And you mentioned, I saw in one of your papers, you mentioned candidate-driven and very specific skill sets. Talk to us from the client side and what clients are looking for in executive search.
Yeah, I mean, the marketplace has changed so dramatically, right? We went from a really healthy marketplace going into the pandemic, and then all of a sudden, it was catastrophic and everything stopped. And then employers really had the opportunity to cherry pick a talent, and then so quickly and so dramatically it changed, and it changed specifically in a few key skill sets or areas for me here in the States and in the areas that I service, and that really is centered in digital marketing and analytics. Okay. These skill sets are e-commerce. We saw a lot of transfer of spend, obviously, during the pandemic because people couldn't go out to retail to online. So my companies and the brands that I service obviously shifted immediately and put all of their resources behind grabbing top talent that could help them drive traffic to their online e-commerce sites, and then try to develop a more intimate relationship with these consumers. And that's where this has been happening. So there's so much competition that, for example, when I reach out to somebody that has 5 to 7 years of digital marketing experience in New York, I'm one of 5 or 6 recruiters that's called in the past 2 or 3 days.
Wow. I read an article last night that one of the retail, because I follow retail as an industry, and one of the things that they were talking about was the customer experience, digital experience, and trying to create a new in-store kind of approach. They used Dick's Sporting Goods, has a unique concept that they were using, and it was kind of a totally different way of approaching retail because retail is transforming.
Yeah. Well, this is true, across the board, whether you're talking about luxury, mass, beauty, lifestyle, healthcare. Everybody is focused on the consumer experience, right? So as a consumer, we want something as quick as possible, as easy as possible. And then the differentiator is how we experience that process. Is it easy? Is it easy for us? Did we get good service? The quality of the product and all of these things. So brands and companies are really focused on an omni-channel approach. Digital marketers are not just focused on the digital platform, but they're focused on driving traffic into the store. In fact, many e-commerce programs are set to have in-store purchases, so in-store pickups. So if you purchase something online, you're picking it up in the store. Anything to make this experience more convenient for the consumer is great. From a retail perspective, much more money is being spent on when somebody comes in the store, what happens in the store, and not only when they interact with employees, but how they physically experience the space, making it more interactive, making it more fun, and keeping people, giving reason for people to be in there.
What you said was exactly what the article said, and they mentioned they used 5 examples, and then there's one I just put on the side for Louis Vuitton, and the way that they're trying to re-experience this, coming into a store as opposed to coming in and just making a purchase, look around, make a purchase, and I leave. How can I create that experience? So if we think of that, and my field being in human resources, and I look through strategic workforce planning when I look at all these transformations. So you talked about calling someone up, and you're the 5th person that's called them. So that means that those jobs are hot jobs. So that someone that has those skills, how can they be discovered? I mean, if you're a digital marketing person and you've been doing excellent work and you have different ideas and maybe you're being suppressed at your company, how can someone get noticed?
That's a great question. And I'm always speaking to people about personal branding. I mean, it's something I feel it's a buzzword that I think has been overused and killed, but I think it really can't be important enough. And I think that really has to do, when you're in a sea of people that have similar titles, come from great companies or similar educational backgrounds, the key is how do you differentiate yourself? And you do that by doing things that other people aren't. And also calling out skills, traits, qualities that are inherent in you. So I think oftentimes people spend a lot of time on sort of hammering history and things that they've done, instead of spending time telling a personal brand story and evolution, and creating a narrative and telling people about them in a way they want to be seen, in the position they want to be in, and oftentimes taking control of the narrative. This also means marketing yourself, right? So what I found was there is a really funny paradox that exists. People who are tremendous marketers, who are fantastic, have MBAs from Wharton, Sorbonne. They can market products. They're terrible at marketing themselves. You hit bullseye, because I talk to these people, and even the LinkedIn profile says executive is so and so and so. And what about you? Tell your story. How do you frame that? So what you're saying is that, do I position my brand as accomplishments, and do I position my brand as, here is my vision of my story, which I call framing? How do you so that's what you're saying, is framing it in a different context as opposed to relying on the experience kind of piece. Yeah, I mean, I think that people are trained in many ways, especially in job interviewing, to talk about what they've done. And when, in this instance, this has been a great period of reflection, and people want change to be happier and to be in a position that they'd like to be in, or be in a position that they see themselves in. And this next position involves usually things that are important to them personally. And so people often need the help of extrapolating those things that are really important to them personally, or things that I see, or their family sees, their friends, their mentors, their peers see, that they're not effectively translating.
Okay. I often refer to LinkedIn as your billboard to the world. And I'm always amazed, these same people you're talking about, you look at their profile and it's absolutely awful. And the reason I kind of focus on that is because I'm here in the Middle East now, because 5 years ago, someone saw my LinkedIn profile and called me, and searched for him out of Saudi Arabia, called me and said that we saw something that we liked. And that's how the process started from there.
Right.
So can you talk to us? So you talked about the branding piece,
right.
If I get a chance to get in front, but let's take it a step backwards. You've got 5 people maybe have identified you. Give us some tips on how do we create that branding story from that billboard of so-called LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think that, for me, that's exactly it. LinkedIn has been a tremendous opportunity to take, what has been a resume and a static document and create something that is a dynamic, personal, professional website.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have hammered this home with candidates for, the better part of 10, 15 years. And I can't, reinforce that enough. So I think that for me, it begins with the picture. It begins with a profile picture. And, it's funny, I talk about this all the time. I mean, I think that, I have people 20 years in the industry that are snapping selfies in a bathroom. And that's a problem. That's a problem for me. I said, I did this one post where I said, you should not look too scared, angry or sad. That should not be the look that you're conveying in your LinkedIn profile. Look happy, professional. I need something from the neck up. This is not a dating site. I don't need the body shot. I don't need sexy. I don't need anything. Right. So the profile picture, right? But after that, I think that, it's become kind of this space of, can we get a fun title like Queen of Fun Stuff or Ace of Digital Mastery? For me, I think that what I want is, this is an amazing opportunity for a candidate to draw passive attention, right? Mm-hmm. So in addition to the efforts that you're putting out and you're looking and you're sending and you're networking, this is an opportunity for you to grab my attention. Tell me a story. Mm-hmm. So whatever that first sort of, brand statement is, whatever you want to call that tells me you're about, I want to know a little bit about you. It's an opportunity for me to learn about you personally. I know what positions you held. I know where you worked. Tell me about you. Yeah. And this is the opportunity. So I encourage, and that's what I help. I try to help candidates do. To me, it's always going to be the qualities, traits, skills that you possess inherently and your personality. How can you convey this effectively online to gather passive attention? And you do this not only by effectively doing that in the profile, but by networking, by posting, by commenting, and by being proactive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was laughing when you said that, because I've run into so many people that maybe something came across my desk and I said, send me your CV, or send me, is your LinkedIn profile up to date? No, not really. Can you wait for 2 days? I said, I can't wait. Thank you. And that's kind of the end of it. Because my thought is, and what I kind of throw back to them, I said, but you're posting on Facebook every day. You're posting on Instagram. You're on Instagram every 5 times a day. Right. Can you reduce the time that you're spending on those and spend an hour? When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do when I turn on my laptop is I go to LinkedIn, because I post there all the time. So trying to figure out, because social has a spread all over the place. Right. And that should be, what you're saying is that should be our number one focus. If this is what we're looking for, even if we're not looking, but we have to basically manage that brand, and that brand exposure comes from that spot. Is that? Well, yeah. I mean, never has it been more apparent when you need a job or you're looking to look, right? That's not the time to begin, positioning or building your brand or building your network, right? Mm-hmm. So if you talk to anybody who's a career expert, and there's a lot of them on LinkedIn and everywhere,
experts,
but I think experts, what we can all agree on is the time to start building your network and building your brand is not when a pandemic happens or when an economic crisis happens. It's when you're actually in a good place, right? And you're building your network, And so that's strong, so that when you're at a point where you want to, at your own sort of, choosing, contemplate a new career move, you have that. Obviously, that doesn't always work out. Circumstances don't allow for that. A lot of people were furloughed, but the idea is that, if you're looking for a job, that's your job. That's your job. And yes, so when you wake up, instead of going to Instagram and posting and social, this should be the area that you're farming.
My mother had a favorite phrase that the time to take time is when there is no time. And so if you're in that transition phase, it's a job to find a job, and there's no easy way. So the other thing is, you notice people, like I said, I pull up LinkedIn and I've got 5 requests, and someone says, please, if there is any openings, I will take any job. It's not focused. So talk to me about a strategic approach for a job seeker that's trying to connect to someone. I know what not to do, and I'll always take time to send them back and say, you know what, you're focusing on the wrong person. I have nothing to do with petroleum engineering. So that's great. I mean, my response to someone like that is like, and I often write back because I empathize, right? I don't know what this person's financial situation is. I don't know what their personal situation is. And I try to put myself in somebody's situation. And my response is, you can be everywhere but nowhere. And when somebody that I am coaching or working with, sends a resume to a major brand, and they send a resume one week for a manager role, and the following week they send it for a coordinator position, and then the following week they send it for a director level role, that does not convey flexibility. That conveys desperation, right? Exactly. For me. And so what you need to do is have kind of a strategy of a point of entry, right? How are you going to sort of work on your point of entry? And that's to an employer, right? And still convey flexibility. So that's a conversation I have daily. And that's an issue in America that we have. We have a lot of people who have 20, 25 years of experience who are willing to accept a salary that is commensurate with somebody of 10 to 15 years, but employers have no interest. It's a problem in our culture. It's a problem in our society that we place little value on exceptional experience or seasoned folks, because there's more value placed on maybe new technology or a sense that somebody might not fit culturally. But I think the idea of working passively to build your brand so that when you're not in a position, when you're not caught in an economic collapse, this is strong is really the key. So people that you're working with, what is kind of the differentiator? You talked about the people that receive 5 inquiries. Can you kind of connect a common theme as to what they're looking for? I mean, they have a great job. It's just passive. They have a great salary, possibly a great company. How do you entice someone to be of interest to this new shining piece of gold on the other side? Because everything here is cool already.
That's a great question. Are you saying how do I market my open job to a candidate that has 5 other opportunities?
Yeah. That's
a great question, my man. Well, that's what they pay me the big bucks for. No. Okay. No, I mean, I think it's really dependent upon, and this is what I will share with you. For me, early on in my recruitment career, I spent a lot of time selling a position to candidates. And then I learned very, very quickly that my job was to, as objectively as possible, present an opportunity. And if my candidate liked that job, my job was really to sell the candidate to my client. And I kind of approach things that way. Now, obviously, there's a duality to it, no doubt. But I think that the key for me, and what I think really differentiates me from many of my peers is the relationships I have with clients. And so even when there's a large client, a global client, that maybe there's a brand group within that client that I have an intimate relationship with, candidates are not making moves for money. I mean, it's not to say that people aren't making moves to make more money.
I know exactly what you're saying.
But the moves are being driven by happiness, quality of life, things that, when I was, working for somebody else, I never thought about a company's philosophy, their involvement with charitable interests. And so there are so many things that go into an evaluation, but I will say that it's really about a personal connection and a sense that somebody will feel that they will have immediate impact.
Okay.
And they feel this through the interview process. They feel that they will have supervisors or people who will be directing them who want to impart knowledge. Most people are leaving companies not because of the company, they're leaving people. And they're leaving people who they felt were not offering growth to them. So they want professional big sisters or big brothers. And then at the end of the day, they want to work around warm, collaborative, down to earth, normal people. And with a company that is going to place a value on their personal health, safety, and growth.
I'm shaking my head because how many times do I tell organizations the same thing? And they're coming back to me and talking about the package, and I said, you're missing the point. What are you offering besides that? Everyone out here is offering something, a salary, a competitive salary. But if that person gets here and your organization's culture is not what it should be, it's more of a cutthroat, it's more of a numbers driven, no relation to empathy, you're going to lose them. So on the other side, from the organization's perspective, Glassdoor could be, oh my God, Glassdoor reviews are through the roof. Do you counsel organizations sometimes that they need to clean their act up before we begin to think about bringing in all this high-priced talent because the longevity may not be there? I'm just curious.
I have uncomfortable conversations for sure. I mean, I like to think that I suffer from terminal realness. That's what that's what I do. And with candidates and clients alike, you have to have uncomfortable conversations. From a candidate perspective, depending upon the level, and I work, at multiple levels from a coordinator up through C-level and C-suite. Glassdoor is certainly, a resource that people look at, and I will challenge. I certainly ask, and one of the first things I do is not go to Glassdoor. I'm speaking to the people who are working there, right? So I'm not getting a review because I understand that people don't like to post positive. My wife was one of those people. We will go out and if it's a stand on the side of the road, she'll write a positive Yelp review. But most people, they run to write negative stuff. People love to post negative things. So when I speak to a candidate that tells me, hey, listen, you know what? I don't want to go on an interview. I read these Glassdoor reviews. That to me is like saying, hey, you know what? Somebody told me chocolate ice cream, it doesn't really taste good. So I'm not going to try it. You know what? I go there, have a conversation, and tell me yourself. Now, if I know for sure, historically, I've spoken with people, and these are repeat offenders. There are organizations that somehow, despite their horrific and toxic reputation, they continue to get people. I am absolutely going to blow them up and call them out, and I will never send somebody there. But if there is a reputation that's online, I want somebody generally to investigate that and get firsthand knowledge. But from an organizational perspective, before I do business with anybody whose reputation is being questioned and super negative, I want to investigate that, and I want to understand why. If I don't get a good answer from human resources or executive leadership about how they're trying to address some of the things that have been called out, or they tell me how they handle communication, measure success, plan for career growth, handle certain situations, bad business is bad business. And for me, I'm not looking to introduce anybody, to those types of environments.
Okay. So I run a company. I'm in US. Culture is toxic. Turnover numbers are increasing year over year. And I call you to say, here's what I need.
Yeah.
And you do your investigation on the flip side, and you find that, oh my God, am I bringing someone in to put them in that situation? How do you deal with that? I mean, I'm just kind of curious.
So there are situations where, there are companies that I've partnered with who have had, questionable histories, and, everybody goes through changes, right? So there's also situations where I'm coming in and I'm helping to rebuild, and I'm helping to really right a situation. And I've been fortunate to be a part of that in a number of instances throughout my career where, I've had leaders come in to an organization that has had a terrible reputation, and they've removed the individuals who were the toxic individuals. And they said, hey, listen, Sean, we really need your help in sort of rebuilding. And we know we've had a really tough reputation. So in that instance, we address it openly and say, hey, listen to the candidate. This has been the history. This has been the reputation. They're looking to make a change, and be very open and honest. And that's the way I begin the conversation. And then the client has to, address how they're going to do this. But I've had many situations like that, right? At some point in time, if an organization has any real vision, they're going to make that change or try to make that change, right? So, there have been points in time where I've been part of trying to make that change.
Okay. Yeah, because this, everyone is talking about this turnover issue that's going to pop as soon as things so-called get back to normal, and people are looking for different things. One of the statements you mentioned is, I'm curious about, you said the quality of life, because I gave a speech in Doha, Qatar the other week, and we were my speech was on the 3 W's, work, workplace, and workforce, and how all of things is going to change. And you mentioned, quality of life, and the questions that could come up under that, whether it's work from home, work from anywhere. So your top candidates, salary is not really an issue because they know they're going to be compensated, say fairly, but what's quality of life themes have you seen picking up? Is that working from home, working from anywhere, hybrid, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, it varies, people, individuals, but definitely the flexibility from work from home. I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a client of mine just this past week. They had four openings happen in marketing, on a marketing team, and they're a small organization. And at the same level, 2 were recruited. They were offered $20,000 more than what they were earning there. The other 2 had been employees there in the organization for more than 5 to 7 years. They were moms, and they had been working home. They were told that, hey, listen, we're heading back to a hybrid schedule, and we want you back. But if you want to come back, we need to have a hybrid schedule. And these people said, hey, listen, sorry, we're not coming back.
Okay.
And HR and the executives thought no way, these people, and they called their bluff, and they were like, Sean, oh my God, we need you. And by the way, this is happening left and right. So what's happening is in major metropolitan areas, and New York is kind of an anomaly because commuting into the city, and you're aware because you live here, is just an animal in itself. And so many people who one hour. Right. So that's something when you have people who live in New Jersey, in Long Island, in Rockland and Westchester, who have been home for 12 months, who now all of a sudden, have to contemplate getting on a bus, a train for an hour and a half to get in, and then still thoughts of being in close proximity and all those things that relate to COVID, when there are many other organizations that are touting 100% remote. That's a tough thing to compete with. So, so I will say that, listen, most of my employers, if not, 90%, are looking to move back to a hybrid schedule after Labor Day, here. And that's the understanding. I think that there will be organizations that will have to make exceptions in certain skill sets. But it's a big challenge. It's already happened. So as far as movement is concerned, this has already begun. My peers are busier than they've ever been in the New York area. Busier than they've been in 12 to 18 months. Most of them.
Okay, so salary is cool. I don't have to worry about that, but I want more. So what you're saying is that I want more flexibility over my life now.
I'm sorry. So from what's motivating them to make a move, and so culture is the number one key for me. So, and when people describe culture, they have not worked in environments where they felt comfortable to be their authentic self.
Yes.
So I think that this is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Bottom line. So these and so comfortable to be their authentic self, whatever that means. And I think that, so that's one thing. I think feeling that their opinion matters and that they have impact. So impact has been something that comes up 17 times. People at every level have felt frustrated that they've put in tremendous effort. They care deeply about the business, and they just don't see that their efforts result in anything. And they'd like to be sort of see. And so what I often see is that this is a movement from larger, more global organizations to smaller or mid-sized organizations where there's more ownership. I think that what they're also looking for is definitely a greater sense of ownership and of their responsibilities. So less political red tape, greater, faster pace, and decision making. How is decision making handled? So through the pandemic, I think that a lot of issues and problems with regard to communication, transparency, and how things were handled in larger organizations kind of was exploited or shown, and so people were frustrated. So I think that what they would like is to feel that they're dealing with people who are going to be upfront with them, that they're getting the message clearly from management. And again, that they feel that they have a real stake in and an impact in what's happening.
Yeah, I was kind of getting flashbacks as you was talking through that when you mentioned comfortable in the environment, because throughout my career, I have maybe been one of the only ones, and you know what I mean by that, and that comfort zone. But I've always kind of had a healthy dose of confidence, but sometimes this just gets to be overbearing, and I think that's one of the things, as a result of what's going on in the U.S., that companies are going to have to realize that everybody doesn't think the same way. Everybody comes with a different lens, and they're viewing things through different lenses. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is an issue, and I know I felt it from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the pandemic, brought up, and the past 12 to 18 months have touched many issues, social, racial, so diversity and LGBTQ related issues in the workplace are top of mind here, and showing greater sensitivity, understanding. we talked about this, off air. There's a great push, right?
Yeah.
For diversity, and what my hope is. In the past, and I shared this with you.
Yeah.
I get a call for diversity or diversity push, and when I had this call for diversity push, it was my feeling that it was kind of BS. In some ways,
I know.
And what I felt and what I shared with you, and I actually posted this on LinkedIn, was that my companies, and some of them really honestly were trying, but the reality was they wanted to hire someone who was a diverse candidate or a Black person who acted white.
Yeah.
And they didn't say this, and they may even not have known this, but themselves consciously. But the organization really wanted to hire someone who had a different skin color, but yet acted like everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think there are many organizations, many more, who are actually ready to hire diverse candidates who come with different social sort of, backgrounds and different personality types and communication styles, and embrace all of a person, right? And I think that's what's a part of being truly diverse, right, and inclusive, and that then somebody who is a person of color would feel, or whoever it is, and anybody would feel more comfortable to be their authentic self in a work setting. That would be the hope of really an effective diversity and inclusion program, right? So
I've been following all of this from afar, and having been in corporate for years and years, from IBM to Xerox to Martha, I've had a good career, and I noticed the companies that were coming out with these statements and all these kinds of things, and I've worked at some of these companies, and I'm like, I was there. What was the thought then? And now it's because everybody else is doing it. So I got to put out a statement. I got to put a PR piece. We got to put out and do this. And I told this former CEO I work with, I said, give it 2 years, it'll be right back to where it was. Because I went through this when I got out of college, and they had affirmative action, and affirmative action enabled me to get a job at IBM.
Right.
And we're still talking this for all these years has gone by, so that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
And
we'll have another show.
We'll have another show. We'll do. Let me give you some background. Sean and I and Jermaine Doe from another major brand, Jermaine Dow, we have this kind of monthly offline conversation. So when we say we've already talked about this, that's what we're talking about, to give some background on that. So let's get back to when you've identified, say, 3 people. What is your criteria for? You have 5 people that you've noted, you've spotted, and you've gone through a process. What is the major thing that you look for? What are some key points? Maybe you can give us 3 key points that you look for when you when you're looking at 3 candidates or 5 candidates, and you're going to bring 3 to the client. How does that process work? That you feel comfortable to say, I'm going to bring Ron in along with the other 2.
Yeah, that's a great question. And then sometimes that process varies. The process is always about, making sure that fit is right for that client. And so, what I've hoped to do, I kept my practice, like my business model is not what, Wharton, if Wharton ever saw my business model from a recruitment practice, it's not the money-making model. I kept my business sort of small intentionally so that I could provide more of a customized approach and sort of a concierge service to my clients. So I spent a lot of time invested in really understanding culture and sort of intimacies that you would never find in a job description, really, to be able to understand who would be successful in the environment, right? And not just the best fit. From a short list, I take a lot of pride in the quality of work that I do and my reputation. So when I make an introduction, I view that person as a representation of me. So I really am thoughtful about that. I think that, when I started, I used to have sort of this method, and I think other recruiters have this. They have like their A candidate, their B candidate, and their C candidate. And you sort of hope that, and you know what, whenever I did that, and I sent my A candidate and I would write this right up and I would say, I'm going to send this and this is the guy. And I kind of just sent the C candidate to make my A candidate look better. My client inevitably hired the C candidate because it's a human thing. It is a subjective type of a thing. So I have to remember that. What I try to do is put myself each time that I'm conducting a search in my client's position, and also use the same filter that I have. And a lot of that has to do with things that I really, are instinctive at this point in time that I've been doing for a long time. If they hit the skill set, I'm looking for the way, do they clearly articulate differentiating factors? Can they clearly tell me why my client would want to hire them over the person that they're competing against? Is there anything about them that they can tell me about the way they improved or left the places that they were at?
Oh, okay.
That really hits me. Because I want to know you left a place better than it was when you got there. And if people can also echo that, then that tells me, a bit more about you, that it wasn't that you can tell me about your personal accomplishments, but that tells me a lot about you and how you impacted the environment.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, it's, as far as putting somebody forward, it's really how passionate they are about what it is that they do. Because that just can't be taught. And those are the things so passion for me is contagious. So, I've had really, really bright people. I'm really fortunate to speak to super smart people who had way better SAT scores than I could ever have wished to.
Welcome to the club.
Right. But if they are void of personality, then going to a great school and having a fantastic resume means nothing. And these people get their butts kicked in an interview process by the person who is magnetic and engaging and connected. And so my clients never call me and say, hey, listen, I just met the most amazing supply chain person who can do, process. And no, they say, hey, listen, you know what? I just met Ted. What a warm, engaging guy. He was really, able to. They talk about the person. And so if I get excited about the person, that's what I move. I get excited about people, both on the client side as well. So at this point in time, from a client perspective, I'm jaded because I've had an opportunity to work with incredible, iconic brands and clients. What gets me excited is people.
You know what? Everyone that's listening to that, you need to make sure you take in that statement, because you can have all the certificates in the world on the board, but if you can't convey that and the importance of that and how you're going to make a difference in the organization, it's not going to work. So I wanted to, as we begin to close it, I wanted to kind of focus on, because I know you're a certified career coach and branding expert. What advice would you give the individual who's looking to either be found or, get your act together to do what you need to do to get to the next step?
Well, I think the first thing that you do is really identify your core set of transferable skills, the things that you you do well and that are marketable. Right. And understand, kind of what role or jobs you want to move into. And then from there, what you want to do is set a plan in place. I think that oftentimes, what people do is kind of say that they want to make a move and then don't have a plan to approach that. So, I would say that it's multifaceted. One is, first of all, doing intense research and into the category and type of role that you're looking to occupy, identifying the core set of skills that you can leverage, identifying the key players in that space, people who perhaps occupy positions that you may want to move into or one level above, who you want to connect with and follow on LinkedIn and social media. Get to know the organizations who may be competitors in that space and connect, and become, as best as you can, a subject matter expert. For me, in any situation, knowledge is power. So, I think that regardless of the role that you're looking to move into, educating yourself about what technology, what problems you can solve. At the end of the day, a new job, an employer is looking for you to solve a problem. If you can effectively demonstrate to somebody how you're going to solve this problem, and then I think that you're going to capture attention.
Okay, cool. Before we close out, there's one thing that we didn't cover yet. Talk to us about 420 Connect, because that's kind of a new, when I saw that you had angled into that business as a co-founder of 420 Connect, and folks, it's concerning the cannabis industry, because in the U.S. now, cannabis or weed has been legalized, and you're sourcing executives in that space. Yeah.
It's exciting. I mean, the move to doing this, and this is adjacent to the talent magnet. So on 420, April 20th, I launched 420 Career Connect, and this was really a kind of a passion project for me. It began personally. I've had tremendous injuries, orthopedic injuries. I was an athlete many years ago, and someone recommended CBD. Cream to, because doctors were just writing prescriptions for pills, and I had enough of that. And I used the CBD, and I was blown away, and just provided tremendous release. So I became kind of a believer and an evangelist in that end. And then professionally, what happened is I was recruiting in California and Colorado and Chicago, and I began to speak to my candidates, a vice president of beauty. And I said, where are you interviewing? And they said, this beauty company and this beauty company. And all of a sudden they said, Curaleaf or something. And I said, what's that? They said, it's a cannabis company. And I said, really? And this became more common. So then I said, well, I have a personal interest. And now all of a sudden, professionally, I see these companies want the same people I have.
Yes.
So it became apparent that professionally I should have an interest in this as well. So as legalization was coming east, I decided I should prepare for that. And then I was speaking to many candidates in the beauty, luxury, fashion space who said, I would love to move into this space and marketing. So this is what I've been doing, preparing for this and looking for a platform for my beauty candidates and CPG candidates to make a career pivot into cannabis. And really it's been amazing. One of the other motivations for me really is on the social aspect. Cannabis companies and the larger ones are involved in trying to correct some social wrongs. Here in the States, there was the Rockefeller laws where a lot of people who were arrested for non-violent weed-related crimes, for having a little bit of weed, you could have been arrested and sent to prison for 25 years. And it's insane. So these companies are funding legal teams to expunge the records for these people and get them released. And it's called the Last Prisoner Project. And for me, I feel a great sense of obligation and a tremendous opportunity for me as a recruiter to put people of color who have been, unfairly impacted by this. If I could potentially play a part in putting some of these people to work in some of the dispensaries or some of the areas that, put them back at, how ironic and how amazing that would be. And for me, although I'm not a diversity recruitment entity, I am very proud of the fact that my wife and I, since we've been in business, 70% of the people that we place are women, and nearly 70% of those are women of color.
Okay.
And you know, for me, the climate here in the States is all about how do we, through our professional, you know, I guess platforms, impact social, I guess, you know, directives and movements. And, you know, I don't think that I had been able to do enough of that through the Talent Magnet. So 420 Career Connect is where I'm going to be able to do a lot of that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Can you give us your website?
Yeah, it's 420careerconnect.com, and the other is talentmagnet.com, and the 420 side of things will be really much more active over the course of the next 30 to 60 days, as I begin to sign contracts and get more involved. At this point in time, we're really just building inventory and establishing relationships with candidates in the New York metro area who are interested in the cannabis space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My man, I knew you would deliver. I knew that you would deliver. Thank you so much,
Ron. You know what? It is a pleasure. You are fantastic, and I'm so happy that we had a chance to do this. And anytime. And now I have to have you do something with me.
Well, you know what? Well, we'll do our so-called private call in a couple of weeks. I'll reach out to Jermaine and we'll set something up, man. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you. Just hang on for a second as we close out.
Great, I will do.
Okay.
All right.